Today we're going to unbox and look at an Ordnance Research Incorporated Colt 607 stock. Now, like I said, with most of the retro guns looking to do a 607, the stock came wrapped in that and some cellophane, but it got here in one piece. Some advertisements and some other stuff in there, but here we go. And now I don't know if H&R uses this company. This is the one company that makes this bizarre stock. H&R does have this on their lower, and the lower, which is this here, complete with whatever they're using, okay, cost over $1,000 for that half of this project. So I did the research. There were several companies that were 3D printing these things and making a least expensive model. These used to be 800 units, but together with the shipping, this was 860 units. Now, from what I could tell, the other companies, or guys that were making all of this stuff 3D printed, they're kind of not around. There were some videos out there, I don't know. I seen another guy try to hack something like this together and make it. The original design is fairly complex. Now this, when I went on their website, they said that this is the more simplified version of the stock that they've redesigned. And obviously this is an actual military stock. I was looking through the photos. I don't know if they still had the sling swivel. I was going through my Vickers guide on these and looking at it, and they give you detailed information on this particular stock. This was the first attempt at making a carbine or a shortened gun, and they only, in actuality, I think only made like 60 of these, or only 60 of these were sent to Vietnam. And there's actually one style, and from going through the book, there's all kinds of variations of these guns that he's found in museums or whatever. Some have a little switch here instead of this switch in the back. Some are slick-sided. There was one with a forward assist on it, and all of them ended up with a moderator, but the original ones that they first made had just a 10-inch barrel with a duck bill, or not, 3-prong flash hider, and you see examples of that. And of course these firearms are probably all reworked. Now, interesting enough with this simplified design, I've seen where on the receivers, and somebody had this done, there's a hole here that was supposedly put on the early AR-15, M16 receivers, and this roll pin would lock the receiver tube extension in the back of the receiver. But these other guns also have a secondary hole. When I was studying the photographs, there's a second hole, because the way this stock attached, I believe you would have to deepen that pocket, and then the rod kind of went in there, and what it did is you had to drive a pin about there. And I've seen one guy, you have to take your detent spring and shorten it, put the detent in, and then when you put either the plate or the pin itself, went through that little hole for the detent, and that is what retained the detent and the spring in the receiver, was that secondary pin. Okay, So I guess maybe they made these like the originals and you had to do that. But now this is quite different. Okay, when you go in the back, you had the locked position, and then you would switch it to open. And then when you pull on this part of the stock here, it comes out. And then you would go back, push the lever, and lock it. And then that's how you extended it. But as you see with this, there's a tube and the lower rod is permanently affixed to this plate, would be the rear plate, and this will probably hold in your, just like any other plate on the back of the receiver, this is going to hold in your detent spring in that. But you see this tube is just loose here. There's no castle nut or nothing involved in this. And it just takes a standard carbine tube. Now, interestingly enough, let me get that back together. This is a used stock. It has a 92 carved into it, and I believe this was shortened, and that's what they did with the originals, is just take a standard stock and cut it to fit into this. I don't remember if they had sling swivels on them or not. I'll have to go back and check the book. They may, or I don't know if they did. Maybe not. Don't know. But like I said, if you go through the book, you see several examples. There isn't a standard model. And like they said, like on this receiver GX, government experimental or something, gun experimental, they don't know it, but that has the serial number or the prefix or designation. Some have 607 written on them, depends. But actually, I cannot show you this. But what I'm going to do is you would take this, extend it, and then I found you can just, with your finger, screw this tube into the back of the stock, and then we'll take a look at it from there. Okay, mounting this on a receiver is pretty straightforward. You would just turn this with your fingers. This is free moving after you've lined up the plate, and it locks in to the lower end of the receiver, and you just tighten it, I guess. And it does screw in there just enough. You can look to where it'll catch your buffer tube detent or retaining plug. Alright, and that's what it looks like there, extended. Now, if we go hit our switch in the back, lock it back, put it on lock, there's where it is in the folded position. Okay. Yes, this is excruciatingly expensive, but I wanted to get one because, like I said, for this complete lower like this with this device on the end, this type of stock, they charge over $1,000 for that. I don't know if they use this company's or if they use like a newer stock, where this is a used military one. But that's how it affixes to the lower. I don't have the parts yet, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. If anything, I'll get this together and we'll put a rifle length barrel on this and test out stock. I don't know if I'm going to build a short barrel and get a Form 1 or get this registered as a SBR. I know it's not that difficult anymore. I'm going to look into that in the next few weeks and see and take it from there. I'm getting stuff a little at a time to do this together. But there you go. That's pretty interesting and exotic and expensive part right there. All right, thank you and stay tuned.